Hey everybody, welcome back. I still can't believe that I won the last one. I'm just getting the randomizer open here. He said the word wrong. As regular as Hazel to Blue Baby. Now I'm scared because on the last run things were tough, and we succeeded in spite of that, which is unusual for me in Isaac lately. A lot of my skill in this game has transitioned to, I don't know, other avenues that, as of right now, escape me. Now this is like the textbook. I mean, this is the palate cleanser. This is the easy run you do when you're sick of losing. And we got it with a natty spawn, as the kids say. Kids are always talking about it. It's funny, you know, it's a common me bit, don't get me wrong. He stutter stepped me and saved my life, thank you. It's funny how words change over time. Sus did not exist. Well, exist is probably not the right word, but it was not part of the common vernacular when I was a young adult. We had a different parlance. We said sketchy, and we said legit. Like something you would hear, and maybe still to this day you might hear millennials who are in like their own enclave. Unlike me, I'm like a cool millennial because I, talk to Zoomers all day or talk at Zoomers all day, I guess. You might hear someone say like, "For real? Yeah, dude, legit." And even the words, they kind of, they sound like a little cringe coming out of my mouth, but it's not because they're cringe, in a vacuum. It's just because, it's a vestige of such a different time that it's, like wearing bell-bottom jeans when bootcut is in style or whatever. It's just, you're like, whoa, what the heck happened there? Just interesting how, like, attitudes change. Like, honestly, some of the best-dressed people that you see, like, in Vancouver right now, if they had worn that in, like, 2005, they would have gotten, laughed out of the American Eagle Outfitters. We were wearing our bootcut jeans and our, striped polo shirts occasionally, depending on it depends on your age, it depends on the kind of avenues you were running in, but you might have seen a popped collar or two for sure. You might have seen, a pink polo shirt with a pop collar and then jeans that are like, 4 inches too large around just about every part of your lower body. That's the way it was back, and we liked it. We liked it. With the spiked hair and the puka shell necklace. Anyway, I'm not lamenting the changing of the trends, because what's funny is now I think you gotta look back. And we almost like whenever I see a video of the era in which I basically came of age, I look at the people in it and go, what the hell were you thinking? And that's the honest to goodness truth. Like, I was watching Little Sesame Street yesterday as the mood strikes one when you have a child and need, to distract them for 15 minutes so you can have some thoughts, just like, that's not just like, a cup, a shell, a jar of sand is all you need to start a band, plus a pot to bottom tish and a broom to swishy shish, swishy swish. And there was like, it was a compilation video, and would you look at this? Would you look at this? And it was like songs about Christmas or something like that, because 'tis the season, obviously. And they had one that was clearly from maybe the mid to late... Oh, no. What have I done? No. They had one from that was from like the mid to late 2000s decade. And I was like, what the heck are they wearing? They look so, like, ridiculous. And then I realized the person that I was saying looked ridiculous was Anne Hathaway. Like one of the most well-regarded actresses of our generation, probably, and not merely for the Princess Diaries 1 and the Princess Diaries 2. Look, we gotta think about this one. I would love the damage, so let's do it. Okay, I didn't do the math. That's a little spicier than I perhaps thought it would be, but that's okay. We don't look quite right now. It's like we got 7 pairs of wings or something, but it's like, man, and what's messed up is that for all of what I just said, if you can have an outfit that makes Anne Hathaway look like she's graceless, then obviously that it was just a bad period for fashion. But what's crazy is that I bet in 2040, maybe even before that, now that I think about it, maybe like, 2030s, the early 2000s fashion is going to start to come back. I mean, we've now reached the point where I actually think like the early 2000s fashion, now that I think about it, with like the Matrix trench coats and stuff like that. And I think that looks kind of cool. It's now like, the wheel of cringe has turned, and now I look at I mean, no offense if you're presently watching this while wearing like a long sleeve shirt under a short sleeve shirt. Like that was kind of a look that I rocked a little in high school. I wasn't a scene kid. I graduated maybe like a little bit before that came to the forefront of that age group's culture. So I never did like the long sleeve shirt with the thumb hole cut out so you could stick your thumb out from your shirt, which was kind of cool. I never did the swept bangs. With the beanie over top of it. Quite frankly, I just never had the hair for it, even in high school. Not much less the desire for that record, but it's just funny how things change. Because, I don't know if kids these days or even, younger adults make the same mistake that I made when I was an adult. I think it's kind of ubiquitous. The mistake is just thinking like, oh, we're living in like the peak of culture right now. All the stuff that came before this was just a preamble to when we really got, fashion and music and movies completely figured out. How embarrassing that, my parents were listening to the Bee Gees. Wow. Crazy. Couldn't be me. Hey, could you put that new Nickelback song on? It goes pretty hard, And it's just, it happened to me, it'll happen to you as well. And not even in a bad way, just in a way where I'm like, you might as well embrace it rather than try to fight against it. You can always try to stay a little current, don't get me wrong, but, the idea that you're always going to be on the cutting edge, no, I think you reach a certain age maybe, I don't know if I'm there yet, but rather than try to be on the cutting edge, you just try to remain timeless. I will say, I feel like that's kind of why, like, the elderly have dressed the same throughout what appears, at least as a present, to have been my entire life so far, as long as I've been cognizant of it. You just reach a point, maybe, in your 70s, where you're like, you know what? Give me that, give me the corduroy. Give me the plaid sport coat. And, give me the newsboy cap, and we'll head to the buffet. Honestly, it might sound a little like resignation, but to me it sounds a little bit like freedom. That's why they had it all figured out in the Roman days, man. Everybody's wearing a toga everywhere. I don't know. I don't really have a leg to stand on. I don't actually necessarily believe that ancient Rome had it figured out. It's kind of problematic. You know who had ancient Rome figured out? Vercingetorix. Just kidding. I mean, he seemed like he was beguiling the legions for a while until Caesar, conquered all of Gaul. But anyway, I'm not trying to make this like a history thing. Regardless, how am I doing? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking if you did. It's a Sunday. Weather's actually kind of nice today. If you ever have to ask, what's going on in my life, it's pretty typical right now. Was very pleased to wake up a little bit before my alarm, sneak in a nice little Peloton ride before the wife and the baby woke up, doing a lot of dad duty this morning, eating a nice breakfast consisting of skyr, granola, and chopped banana. That's not a euphemism either. I feel like I overlooked, I guess it's a parfait. What the heck is a parfait, now that I think about it? I mean, this is incredible. Do I care about this? I don't think so. Let's not be too risky. Just kidding. Had you fooled for a second there. A parfait is just like any non-ice cream dairy product mixed with fruits and nuts and, maybe some toppings. So like a parfait is like a sundae, but for yogurt. Is that correct? Because I'm coming at this earnestly. I always thought that I was not like a parfait or a yogurt sort of guy because I never really enjoyed yogurt. I think I had a yeah, sure. I had a preconception about yogurt that is not true, and my preconception was that, you know, yogurt is just like a health food. Like it's something you only eat if you're a child or if you're like pretending to be gluten intolerant. And that's not fair because I will admit it was one of those things where I would go to the grocery store and it would always like the dairy case would always stun me with the selection of yogurts in there, and you got, you know, your Greek yogurts and now your Icelandic yogurts and stuff like that. And I was like, this can't possibly, the industry can't sustain this level of competition. Clearly, you know, it has for, I don't know, at least a few generations. So I don't know what I'm talking about is really what I'm trying to say at the end of all this. Really, like, honestly, you give me that many dubious question marks, I say no. Here's a dubious question mark for you. Anyway, so I think I had a predisposition, you know, when you go into eating food and you think that the food is going to be bad, or the food, you know, is emblematic of perhaps a element of culture that you don't identify with. Like for me, like yogurt and yoga, they share 3 of the same letters. They also, I imagine, have a pretty large overlap in consumer base, I think. But I've been eating this skyr plus like some granola plus some fruit, and I'm like, man, this is actually just like, oh, and I'm not necessarily suggesting is good for you, because granola is one of those things that's like a little tricky, I think, because it, like, by weight is pretty bad for you, but a little goes a long way, you know? Like, if you were to eat an equivalent weight of spinach or granola, the granola would win numerically in every category, which means your heart would lose. And your wallet, probably. But a little goes a long way. It's basically like, you know, like sometimes you'll get, maybe you'll get poke is a good example, and then they give you the option at the end of it. They go, hey, what are these finishes do you want to add? You know, you want to add some sesame seeds? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, you want to add some tempura bits? You know, little scraped off pieces of deep fried batter? I'm like, absolutely, toss that on there. It's just a little extra, you know, textural quality goes a long way. Shops now sell all familiars for 10 coins. Now, that would immediately allow us to buy King Baby for 10 cents. But even that, I mean, King Baby's pretty good. I don't know, maybe it works with Vengeful Spirit, but with our limited financial ability right now, doesn't seem that exciting to me. And it's basically just like a breakfast sundae. I think it's like pretty good for you. What do I judge that by? Well, like, because I like eat it at like 8:30, and then by noon I have like a ravenous hunger. I don't know if that's actually like a scientific way of evaluating. But like, you know, so if you eat like an entire rotisserie chicken in a single sitting at 6 p.m., you could probably go to bed without having a midnight snack. But this, I'm like, you know, after a reasonable time frame between breakfast and lunch, I'm like, yeah, I'm ready for lunch, man. That's pretty much been my day so far. Nothing too remarkable. Yeah, that's me. Oh, just getting, you know, about 8 hours of sleep a night, waking up at a reasonable hour, you know, knocking out the chores in the house and spending a reasonable amount of time with my family. You know how it is. Live fast, die young, bad girls do it well. It's a little callback to the MIA conversation from the last episode. Hold on, we're at potential boss rush levels for sure. Am I insane? We have high HP. We have great damage. We've got consumables of all variety. We've even seen a planetarium with a non-useless item. Am I being pranked right now? Perhaps I'm still dreaming. That could be the case. I could still be dreaming. You know what? Give me telepathy for dummies, I guess. I kind of, you know, there's something about the soul of Jacob and Esau. We got tons of time on this floor. We don't need to rush anything. Well, it's okay. I'm not gonna cry. But you can use it's one of my favorite, like, fringe uses for a rune. We can use it to play a self-sacrifice rune for us. Not much, but, like, it at least... there's a couple of runes in the game, runes, I should say. Cough, the soul of Blue Baby, where I'm like, this was a bit of a stretch. You know, this is like when you have to write a 5-paragraph essay in high school about why school uniforms are actually a good thing. And then, you know, you write like, well, it puts everybody on an even playing field regardless of their family's income. And then you're like, it presents a good image for the school. And then you're like, I gotta think of a third point to defend this argument. What the heck? Bulk pricing on laundry services? Like, you know, you kind of... Every once in a while, you'd be saddled with an essay position in elementary school or high school, and, you know, you'd find yourself, you know, first and third paragraph, you're like, maybe I don't agree, but I can kind of see it. Second paragraph, where you're supposed to, and I say supposed to as if it's like a hard and fast rule. I don't know if I ever heard Norm Chomsky. I don't know if I've ever heard Noam Chomsky espouse this particular ethos of putting the weakest argument in the middle of your spiel. I feel like that dude, honestly, like, this is not meant to be disrespectful to Noam Chomsky. I feel like he'd just kind of be talking, though. And I heavily respect that. My vibe, whenever I especially, like, emails that Noam Chomsky has written, the vibe that I get is that this dude is actually, like, I'm just gonna write whatever pops into my head, and if you don't want to take the time to actually interface with it properly, then that's your loss. That's a sincerely great energy. And I say that as somebody who has to proofread his emails after he writes them in order to minimize the amount of exclamation marks. I know that's very common. Maybe it's a heavy millennial energy and as a result cringe in the year of our Lord 2021, for the time being at least. But it'll come back around, I promise. The exclamation mark has got to be one of the most ambiguous pieces of punctuation, right? Like, the exclamation mark is shouting, but on the internet, it becomes saying something with a smile. So you always got to be like, hey, sorry I didn't reply to your email yet, you know? You're sending out the image of just being like the happiest person on planet Earth when you're replying to this email that, you know, honestly, if you wanted to, if you were actually excited to reply to it, you wouldn't have replied, you know, 3 weeks after you got it when a sense of dread crept over you. You would instead have replied to it when you originally got the email 3 weeks ago. And a period is like, it's honestly like somebody being short with you. Hey. Or, God forbid, if somebody ever said hi with a period at the end of it, I don't know if honestly, that's like cause for ending your friendship with somebody. Hi. I hope this email finds you well, period. Oh, man. That's like, you might as well have told me to just go frick myself. Anyway, we're bouncing back and forth, a lot of topics here. Hope you're having a good time, staying safe. You know how it is. This is a tough choice, man. I can't believe we haven't marbles it up yet. That's not a tough choice. We're going to be back in here in a second no matter what. I don't even want those. I would rather save my Emperor card. I feel like we don't lose that much. I mean, in terms of magnitude, like 10 luck is obviously better than what we were getting from Cracked Crown. But in terms of, you know, utility, like 2 damage up might be better than 10 luck up, depending on the tier effects you got and stuff like that. But I think 10 luck versus like 1.5 damage on this run and a little miscellanea. I'll take the 10 luck. Plus, apparently, we'll never be hit again. So it's one of those interesting weeks of the year, right? Like, this week exists. I'm recording this on the 19th. The 19th to the 25th, it exists. People do things. They might ask you to come into the office on Monday, Tuesday, maybe even on Wednesday. I'll be honest with you, maybe even on Thursday. I don't know. What day is Christmas? Christmas will be on Saturday. They're not going to ask you to come. Well, I mean, they could ask you to come in on Friday. I guess if you're like a firefighter or something. I mean, if you're counting beans at the local, Ernst and Young or something like that, or Price Waterhouse Coopers. I mean, I think you got to start to take some issue with that. But what do I know? What do I know? Okay, I know you worked hard to get yourself into that position. You don't want to, squander it. I'm just saying I have sympathy at the very least. What a dodge. This week exists, though. Like, in theory, you could do an important thing this week. If you had to renew your car insurance or, something like that. I recognize this is where everything goes wrong on my Azazel run, so I'm trying to chill out a little bit. You could do it. But the week from, like, what will be the 27th to, like, the 2nd, that week does not exist. It's the one... Look, and I support it. It's like 2% of the year that is basically the free space on the bingo card. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. I don't really care what you do in the week from the 25th to the 1st to the 2nd. Go nuts, That's your time. I don't anticipate, being able to get a quote on, like an oil change in that period. I know, it's so merciful of me to offer this to you, but what can I say? I'm a benevolent YouTuber. Thank you, Gimpy, thank you. Okay. I mean, realistically, I know that we lost one of our last Azazel runs. We really, really should be fine. I should have stuck with Cracked Crown. I think is abundantly clear now. Some Spirit Hearts would be nice as well, but alas, it doesn't always happen. If you lose an Azazel run, you can recover, like your ego can recover. I'm living proof of that. If you lose an Azazel run where you had a Sun card this late in the game, that's one of those times where you're like, I gotta read the writings on the wall, man. Like, I gotta retire before they force me out. I could be putting tigers behind porcupines right now. You want to test me? You want to test me? You want to look? You want to curve a shot around the pot like that and test me right now? Okay, go for it. Okay, you're owned. We're gonna be fine. I just need to... I mean, it's partly like playing a little better and partly just like, this is what happens when you start going up against slightly harder enemies. And your range is Azazel's range, You kind of bake that possibility in there that things will get a little tougher. It's also what happens, when they drastically nerf the Spirit Heart spawning rate of just about every item or, environmental object in the game, is that it makes it a lot more difficult to actually get this. Well, I mean, I say a lot as if it's like hard, but it's not necessarily hard. I'm not taking that. You know why? Because you took out the Spirit Hearts. If you bring back the Spirit Hearts, I'll bring back a little bit of extra Zane. Otherwise, you're basically handing me a Razor Blade and go and eat it, you coward. I refuse. I refuse to swallow a Razor Blade. I can barely even swallow like an extra strength Tylenol. That's... Look, I was gonna say that's not true, but like I was only able to swallow pills probably later than the usual, I would suggest. And you know what got me out of it? Like, what I started to, when I was into working out more and like, maybe even too into it, I started taking fish oil pills for, reducing inflammation. If you bought expensive fish oil pills, the doses you would need, you'd probably take like 1 to 2 pills a day, right? If you bought, I mean, I was on a college student's budget. If you bought cheap fish oil pills, the dosage per pill was much smaller. So I would like, eat a can of tuna for lunch, a little bit of hot sauce mixed in, and then, down like, 6 fish oil pills, 8 fish oil pills. It was, and they're like the size of a freaking, like a pill you would feed to livestock or something like that. So every pill that I swallowed for like, a month would just get stuck in my throat every time. And I just got used to that like half second of panic, followed by the weird burp you have where you're like, I think I'm dying, but I know I'm not. Logically, I know I'm not dying, but my like cerebellum hasn't gotten the intel yet. So I just got used to it. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as like an actionable solution for anybody that might be having trouble swallowing pills. All I'm gonna say is, and this is the same reason I talk about picky eating from time to time. If I was able to get over my picky eating habit, and I was able to get over not being able to swallow pills by swallowing, just a stupid amount of fish oil pills, there's hope for you yet. I mean that sincerely. I mean, you don't even have to ask Malf. He'll just tell you willingly. My Subway order, when we used to go to Subway, in high school, turkey sandwich on wheat. Sometimes I'd get cheese. It depends if I was, if I'd baked in the calorie surplus for the day. Yellow mustard. That's it. I know you're gonna be like, what? Yeah, what about the vegetables? You forgot the vegetables. No, I didn't. I didn't have lettuce on my sandwich till I was already a man. And now I'm like kind of into it, honestly. Now I'm like a lettuce, tomato, red onion. Not really. Honestly, like, Subway is doing the green pepper a great service. The green pepper is not... it should not be included in the Subway ingredient bucket as if it's like a ubiquitous thing that goes on every sandwich, man. I don't mind a green pepper. I would even go a step further. I actually go to bat for the green pepper when people say things like, well, the green pepper is actually just a non-ripened red pepper, so you're just eating a fruit or a vegetable when it's, not even ready yet. That's fine. I like the taste. We eat a lot of, in Sicily, they're having maggots go into the cheese and stuff like that. We do a lot of things with food that are weird. Like, you ever hear of, like, cheese? You ever hear of just milk to begin with? Like, there's some plants we eat, like, the stems. Some plants we eat the seeds. Some plants we eat the root. There's no wrong way to eat a Reese's. Help. Either way, though, come on. Like, it's such an overbearing texture, the green pepper. It's so, like, firm that it compromises the quality of the sandwich. That's just an IMO, okay? So I'm like a lettuce, tomato, red onion, black olive. If they have greens, I would love it, but they seem to have been phased out in more places than they used to. I'm not taking that, man. You had your chance. Dill pickles, also overbearing, but I love the taste. Maybe hot peppers, but I honestly, I'll add maybe jalapenos. You don't need the jalapenos and the hot peppers. Then, who are you trying to impress? I get it. Like, if you had adventurous taste, you wouldn't be a Subway. Like, stop lying to yourself. I really wanted to kill famine last, which might surprise you, because I definitely pretty much exclusively shot at famine first. Nice shot. Congrats. You're crazy for this one? Dude, my best friend, helping me out with the homing shots. Back at it again. Okay, we're not gonna lose. It might get a little spicier than we thought, but knowing that we were so close to the boss has really helped me out. We're gonna actually win a run as Azazel. I know many people are saying this. I also know that of all the sandwich ingredients, all the toppings, I should say, one of the most divisive is also one of the most popular, and that's the tomato. And I've never ever been a fan of tomatoes, and I've eaten I started as a picky eater, and then I broadened my horizons. I've eaten a lot of, I don't want to say unusual stuff, but it's probably true. Open mind about it. But the tomato never really struck me as like I always found it so juicy as to ruin the bread, but I just thought about it the other day, and I was like, why don't I start putting the tomato into the sandwich? They're good for you. Might as well. Maybe it's time to grow up, And then I gotta tell you, when I ate it, I was like, this is pretty good, and it's made it part of the core from that point forward. Anyway, these are the mundane stories that make up my life. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We did a great job, and we won. Look, maybe we left some HP on the table that we shouldn't have by taking so much damage, but we did exactly what we needed to do to get us to the end. Thank you to the Sun card for staving off another round of embarrassment, and I'll see you next time. See ya!